Welcome again to Gleaning and Gathering. I'm your host, Eric Heimlich. Today, I want to talk about celebration and celebrating well. I am thinking about this because I've been doing a bit of celebrating. Today, we just came from a celebration. My good friend, Dr. Hank Voss, was installed today in the Andrews Chair for Christian Unity and Spiritual Theology at Taylor University. I've worked with him over the past 5 years in the Sacred Roots Thriving in Ministry initiative, which was funded originally by the Lilly Endowment, and it's been a great privilege to be part of that work. The relationship that I have with Hank really goes back almost 30 years, I guess. I was in high school when I first met Hank. He and his family had moved here from California, and it was his father who actually, I think, probably first brought us together. He was teaching a course in engineering and very graciously asked me if I would be willing, as a high school senior, to, in his words, I just wonder if you could take the course and kind of show me maybe a few things that I could be able to communicate with younger people in a better way, and was asking me for my help. Well, I was honored and thrilled to take his engineering course, his introduction to engineering. It was a fascinating course, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. But Hank and I were in that class together. He was in college. I was just finishing high school. And then I also played on the soccer team with his brothers and on the basketball team that King's Academy was starting, a school that his family was in the process of starting. So anyway, then Hank went to work in inner city ministry in Los Angeles with World Impact, and I ended up in inner city Indianapolis. And so we kind of ran parallel paths for a couple of decades. And then our lives came back together again, and we reconnected after he moved back here to Upland, and he was teaching at Taylor, and of course I was living here in the Upland area. And so it was an interesting time when we came back together again, and he was working on submitting this grant proposal, landed the grant in 2018, and it was in 2019 that he asked me to come and be part of the project. And at the time I had more things to do than what I could possibly get done, and there was no real reason why I should say yes, except that this would give me an excuse to hang out with Hank. And he was just one of those guys that I had just so loved and appreciated across the years. Got to visit him while he lived there in Los Angeles, and our family just really fell in love with his family, and we spent some wonderful times and made some amazing memories. On our epic California trip back in 2014, we stayed with him there in Los Angeles for a few days, and it was just a great thing to be able to reconnect with him. And so I thought, I don't really have time for this, but I really need to make time for this. And so it's been just an amazing honor to work with him in this project, as we have taken spiritual classics, updated them, brought them kind of into the 21st century language and to kind of NIV type language, standardize them so they're all 8 chapters long with an introduction and a conclusion. There's discussion questions that are at the end of each chapter, and really a way of helping people to be able to catch hold of some of this ancient truth. And it's just been a great honor. And then we've had conferences where we have been able to connect urban pastors primarily, but also those who are incarcerated and those who are working with people who are incarcerated with these great resources. And so it's been a project that's really kind of fit well with the work that I've been doing in terms of helping to develop urban ministry leaders. And it's been a great opportunity to be able to do this work and be able to provide free resources. And so today we were installing Hank in this endowed chair at Taylor University, and it's been just a great culmination of a lot of different factors and how God brought all that together, but an opportunity to be able to see that work continue and thrive into the future through this chair. And so I got to be part of that celebration today, and so was in chapel this morning at Taylor as they conferred upon him this honor, and then was part of a luncheon afterward where several people that had been part of Hank's orbit and life were there. And it was just an amazing time. And Rochelle and I were there, and it was just such an honor and such a privilege to see it and to celebrate with him. And I'm just really, really thankful for the chance that I have had to be part of the journey of Sacred Roots Thriving in Ministry over these last few years. If you're interested in seeing more about it, you can go to sacredrootsministry.org. That's where you could check that out and see some of the good things that are going on there. But it got me thinking about celebration. This past weekend, our family was together and we were celebrating. We didn't really have an occasion to celebrate. We just made it up, and got together and had such a wonderful time. We went to see The Horse and His Boy, which was a theater production put on by Logos Theater there at the Ark Encounter, and they did an amazing job. And by the way, if you haven't seen that and you are a lover of C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia, I highly recommend it. It is amazing theater. They did a great job. And frankly, I was skeptical coming into it. Anytime you have amazing work like that, I have seen more times than not a theater production or a movie in particular just completely and totally shred the book to where it's like it's a disappointment. But they did an amazing job capturing not just the story, but really the overall point that C.S. Lewis was making in that book, and did it in such a powerful way that I came away we had such an amazing time, and such an amazing time together celebrating as a family. It was a great opportunity, just being together and having an opportunity to just share what's going on in each one of our lives, and being able to really relax together for just a little bit. But also it was so fulfilling. And this weekend we're going to be together with some wonderful dear friends, our friends the Casalinos. We began getting together years and years ago, back when I think Kaylin was 3, and we each had a couple kids. And so now there's, I think, 14 Jaimelinos. That's what we call ourselves when we get together. And we just have crazy fun times. And it's always just a great celebration. And this weekend we'll be celebrating Samuel's birthday. And one of the things that he wanted to do was to get together with the Casalinos. And we're going to do some rock climbing at Climb Indy. And I don't know what else we'll get into, but we're going to have a fun time. And I am so looking forward to that. And it got me thinking about celebration and what are the elements of celebration that are important. One of my favorite books, and you know this if you've listened to this podcast very long, I think I've referenced it multiple times, is the book A Resilient Life by Gordon MacDonald. And in the last few chapters of A Resilient Life, there's a section there, chapter 25, there's a chapter called The Value of Lingering. And he tells a story in there of Christy, his daughter. They had gotten together. There was a special occasion. And the next day he was getting together and talking to her about this special occasion. And there were a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds that had been part of that gathering the night before. He asked her the question, what's the secret behind such a laid back fellowship? And her answer was lingering. He says she chose the word I'd never heard her use before. Quote, no one is in a hurry. There's no pressure to make something happen. People are not burdened by expectation of dress, correctness of opinion, or responsibilities for various programs. They just like being together. They really care about each other. No one is in a hurry to get somewhere else. They just linger. I think that having a collection of people who think that it's all right just to linger without always having to measure things in terms of results is a key to really being able to go the distance. I didn't always see that. And I remember one of the first times that I was no longer the executive director and in charge of one of our retreats, There was a retreat where our folks just got together and they hung out and fished like the entire weekend on this retreat. No meetings, nothing, just get together and hang out and fish. And I remember at the time thinking it was a colossal waste of time. And I saw myself in this chapter. In fact, Gordon MacDonald says this. He says, as I looked critically at myself, I began to realize that I was a poor friend to those whom I called friends. And truth be told, if any of them were trying to extend lingering friendship to me, I probably was unaware. I was too involved in my work. I was probably self-absorbed, and I didn't fully comprehend what the Bible taught concerning the sacredness of human connection. I believed those who said that the cost of leading meant loneliness and few friends. And if it had remained like that, I don't think there would be much resilience in my life today. It resonates with me because I walked that road. There was a time that I didn't value celebration and lingering friendship like I should. But I'm thankful that God has showed me the value of it. And as I have invested time in that, I've found that there are so many things that happen when we take time to celebrate well. But I think celebrating well has as a predecessor the need to have people with whom you can celebrate. There are certain people that we meet to whom we feel that we can talk because they have such a deep capacity for hearing. Not hearing words only, but hearing us as a person. That's a quote from Margaret Magdalene, quoting Ed Farrell in Jesus, Man of Prayer. I think there's people like that God's put in my life. But probably the greatest example of that is my wife. She's someone with a deep capacity for hearing not just words, but hearing us as a person. Resilient people seek this kind of intimacy. We need it. And it's not something that's going to chase you down the street and corner you and make you stop. Instead, it's going to have to be something that you're going to have to cultivate. And so Gordon MacDonald asks some questions in this chapter called There Are Certain People in his book, A Resilient Life. And there's some questions that I just want to ask you. They're questions that I've asked myself as I've read this book through again and again. Who coaches you? In other words, who disciples you? Who mentors you? Who is it that's helping you along in your journey? Right now I'm doing group coaching. We're calling it 2 months towards transformative action. And I have 13 guys who are part of that group right now. It's open to girls as well, but it just happens to be 13 guys that signed up. Many of them are pastors, several are business leaders, but they're all struggling really with the same thing, and that is, how do I put in place a system that will help me to be able to utilize my time in a more effective way? And as I'm trying to coach them, it is also a challenge to me. It's a journey that I've walked personally. And so I'm trying to share with them some of the things that I have learned along the way, many of them the hard way. And sometimes you need someone who's just a little further down the road. It's not that they have all the answers. It's not that they've got it all figured out and you don't, but they've walked a little bit of life's journey and in particular areas may be able to help you. So who coaches you? Who stretches your mind? Is there someone among your happy few who's a thinker, who is not afraid to poke and to prod into your mind and challenge your politics or challenge your theology or challenge your self-confidence or your life direction or how you're raising your kids? Someone who stretches your mind. It's one of the reasons why I love Mode Camp so much. There are so many amazing, competent people there, but there are people there who think deeply, and they stretch my mind every time. Every time we have an interaction, there are people that are stretching me to think in new ways. Who listens to and encourages your dreams? There are lots of times when my dreams have felt so out of reach, but my wife has encouraged me. I've had other friends who've encouraged me. Who is it that's willing to listen to you and take it in and then encourage you in what God is putting in your heart to do? When you're forming your happy few, one question you need to ask is, who will protect you? In the book Spiritual Friendship, written by Alred of Rivaux originally, it's one of our spiritual classics and one that Hank was the editor for. He talks about spiritual friends being guardians of our soul. I'm thankful that I have a few in my circle, my little band of happy few that for me are guardians of my soul. People that are looking out for me and that are willing and interested enough in where I'm at and what's going on in my life to ask me questions that I need to be asking. You know, Scripture says, submit yourselves to those who have the authority over you, for they watch for your souls, as they that must give an account, that they may do it with joy and not with grief. One question that I often ask young leaders is, who is watching for your soul? One other question that MacDonald asks is, who are those who share your tears? Who's there to cry with you? You know, resilient people are not complainers or whiners, but life can throw some really tough things at us. And are you close enough to people that when you're going through things, that there are people that will just cry with you, that will be present? I think one of the most important questions you need to ask is, who rebukes you? Is there anyone in your relationship circle that loves you enough to speak correctively? Or do you make it too expensive for anyone to cross you, to say anything that you don't want to hear? Faithful are the wounds of a friend. And there are times when it doesn't feel very good to be wounded, but there was rebukes or gifts. I remember as a young man, I was writing a lot, probably a lot more than I had any business writing. But in the course of writing something that I don't even remember now completely what it was, I received a written rebuke from my friend James Keaton. Brother Keaton had been the president of Union Bible College, and he had been a lot of things. But what he was a wise man. And I still remember his rebuke to me. It was, brother, be careful of your tone. You will catch more flies with honey than vinegar. It was short, but it was to the point, and it was needed. My tone was not what it should have been. And his rebuke was a gift. One question that MacDonald asked is, who among your happy few plays with you? Who is it that's there to celebrate, to enjoy good experiences with you? Not just the difficult times or showing up for the board meetings, but who's there to play with you? And then, who is it that seeks after God with you? Who shows up to that prayer meeting? And I thought today, as I was watching the installation of Hank at this event, I thought back to that wintry February evening, longing for the light. Hank was there. He was there with me as we began praying through the night. He was one of those who was there seeking after God with me. And one of the things that we prioritize as part of the Sacred Roots project is prayer. Each and every week we spend an hour in prayer before we spend an hour meeting and talking about the things that need to be worked on in our project. We've done that for the past 5 years. And I believe it's one of the main reasons that God has blessed the project as he has. Because we have prioritized prayer. We've prioritized seeking God together. He closes with this a line that I have on my board of inspiration. There are certain people who enable us to be as we have never been before. A quote from Ed Farrell. Those are the happy few. And it's in the company of those that we do our best celebrating. I don't know what you need to celebrate, but my guess is that there's some of you that need to plan a party. There are things that you need to be thinking about and reflecting on and being grateful for, recognizing that it's God who's done it. It always amazes me that in God's plan, in the law, he instituted 3 feasts and said, I want every male to show up in Jerusalem for these 3 feasts. I mean, you talk about 3 feasts a year. That doesn't sound like a great recipe for productivity if all you're wanting to do is get stuff done. Like every time you turn around, you're going to be celebrating. I mean, are you kidding me? When are we going to actually get anything done? It's the wrong way to look at it. The reality is that God is at work all the time. And because he is doing the work that he is doing, he gives us the gift of celebration. One of the aspects of Sabbath that I'm afraid we've missed is that one day out of 7 is to be set aside wholly to the Lord. Not just that we don't buy and sell and do other stuff. No, but it's more than that. It's a day for celebration. It's a day for remembering that when we cease from our work, there is still a God who provides, who holds us in life, who gives us good things. And the feasts were another way in which God reminded his people of that. I am taking care of you. And because of that, you can celebrate because you're not the one who's making all this happen. I am. So learning to celebrate well is something that I'm still trying to learn. And I certainly have not arrived. But I'm on the journey. And so I want to encourage you to continue to pursue that as well. For Gleaning and Gathering, God bless.